Debbie from Sew So Easy, and today we're going to have a quick look at how we can sew a zipper into the front of a pair of pants, shorts or a skirt. This is a pair of shorts that I made up last year and I was really happy with them at the time. They fit well. However, I'm not sure what happened, whether they must have shrunk several sizes in the wash because they didn't fit me this year. However, they're a good example of what we're going to sew up in this lesson. So we have the front enclosed zipper just here. It's slightly offset, so the front flap here slightly overlaps and the zipper falls here at the back, and these waistband pieces overlap. We close up the zipper, everything's enclosed, and there's a hook and eye, but there could easily be a button there. So I'm drafting up a skirt and I want to include the same kind of opening in the front of my skirt. So let's have a look at how it's sewn. This is the first draft of my pattern piece, and as you can see, for the most part it looks like a regular skirt pattern, and then on the front here we've got this funny curved part added on. So if we look in detail, we have the curved part here, and then there are some marks. So I've got a top stitching line, and this is where the top stitching will go around the zipper part just here. And then I've got a dot and some dotted lines here, and this is the center front of our skirt, and I'm going to sew all the way up as if we were doing a regular zipper, you know, where you sew all the way up to a certain point and then you baste from there on upwards. We'll do exactly the same from this. So I'll sew all the way up the front of my skirt to with the regular seam allowance until I get to this point, and then at this point I'll change to a basting stitch and baste again along the center front up the stitching line right up to the top. So I've got my two pieces of fabric. Imagine these are my full-size skirt pieces, and up at the front just here I've added on a little bit of interfacing, and if you have a look closely, I've also marked on here the markings from the pattern. So I've got the little point just here, and I've carried on my stitching line to make my center front up here. I've done them in a regular ballpoint, so a little bit easier to see for the purposes of the video, but you would just mark yours with a chalk line or with some regular some of that heat erasable pen. So I'm going to add my two skirt front pieces right sides together, match them up and pin, and then I'll stitch up my front center, make sure these are matching until I get to this point. I'll do a couple of back stitches to reinforce, and then I'll change to a long basting stitch and baste along the center front up to the top. So my seam is now sewn. This would be the center front of my skirt, and if we turn over to the back you can see that I've pressed the seam open at the top and the bottom, and then just here I've put the zip, and the edge of the zipper tape is lined up with this basted seam, the center front of the skirt just here. Now as you can see, my zipper is ridiculously long, but it does help to have a zipper which is longer than the area that you're sewing, so that the zipper pull is going to be up out the top, out the way, but it doesn't need to be this long. An inch extra at the top would be fine. So you line up the tape here with this center seam, and we're just going to fold the skirt front out the way because we don't want to sew through that. We only want to sew through these flappy parts. So we're going to sew not on the side next to the seam, but on the side which is closest to our curved edge just here, and using a zipper foot, sew from the bottom up to the top. So that's our first line of stitches completed, and now we need to just neaten up that. So if we fold everything back out of the way, make sure all the layers are where they should be, and just finger press along this seam, and then you can run some stitches close to the edge here, just about 1/8 of an inch, and you'll find it useful to sew from top to bottom now, and that will secure that zipper in place, and it will also keep this layer here folded back. Okay, so far so good. This is now neatly in place, and at the moment the zipper is just kind of sewn on one side, a little bit floppy, but we're going to sort that out now, because we're going to pick up this flap on the other side, lay that flat down on our table, and lay the zipper flat down on it. Now of course it's just going to automatically follow this this centre front basted seam that you've got here. So let it fold over there, make it come down nice and flat. My pins are never in the right place, there they are. And now I'm just going to pop a couple of pins in here, and now we'll sew the zipper tape to this other part of the flap. And now the second side of my zip is sewn into this extension on the side. So now we're going to open everything out and lie it flat. And this is our skirt front here, our centre front sewn just there. And lie everything out nice and flat. Make sure it's all where it should be. And I'm just going to pop a few pins through here to make sure all those layers aren't going to shift around. That should do it. Make sure nothing's going to pucker as I sew. Oh, I don't know what's wrong with that pin. Let's try a different one. There we go. Okay, so now if we refer back to our pattern, we have this top stitching line, and we're now going to use that as a guide to draw our curved line along the front of our skirt just here. Now we have to be careful that we don't hit the metal part of the zipper at the back just here. So I'm just going to stick a pin through to the front to make sure that I'm not going to hit that with my stitching, and then I'll just use a pen and draw on my stitching line. So I've used one of these heat erasable marking pens, and I've drawn my stitching line just here, and I've made sure that I go no lower than where I've got this pin just here, because I don't want to hit the zipper stop. And I'm now going to just sew from the front, follow this line very carefully, and stop just here. So now all we have to do is open up these basting stitches from the front, and then our fly on the front of our skirt will be completed. I'll just give it a little press too, and then come back and show you what it looks like. So the basting's removed, I've given it a final press, and now when we undo the zipper, we have a nice finish just here. Our zipper is concealed, so even when it's done up, you can't see it very easily behind this little flap. And what we should do is leave this zipper in place. If you suddenly cut it off, then you won't have those zipper stops up at the top, and it's possible you'll make a horrible mistake and your zipper pull will come straight off the end. So do leave that in place for now, and the next step normally will be go on to do the waistband, and when you catch this in the waistband, make sure the zipper is open, and then you can clip off any extra that you don't need at that point. And there we go, that's your front zipper on the On Safari skirt, if everything works out well, the one that I'm designing right now. Thanks for following along.